Well, good day, folks. Greetings. I'm here at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Cypress, California. It's in Orange County. I'm going to talk about the very tragic case of Dorothy Jane Scott, who was a stalking and a murder victim. This case is more than 45 years old and it's never been solved. And I came here to do my due diligence and pay respect to this young lady. She was born April 23rd, 1948 in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. The family moved out here eventually. She was a single mom living in Stanton, California. The father of her child was living in another state. I think it was Wisconsin at the time. She was a secretary to two local gift stores here. The gift stores were called Swingers, not to be confused with the Swingers lifestyle. This had nothing to do with that. This was a gift store. They sold a lot of hippie stuff. They sold little Spencer-like gifts. It was a kind of a popular store at the time. She was a religious girl. Well, she was not married. Unfortunately, she made a mistake, and I think she had this child out of wedlock. I'm not sure. But at the time of her death, she was a devout Christian. She wasn't partying. She wasn't doing drugs. She wasn't drinking. She wasn't running around with those kind of people at all. In fact, she had very little social life. She'd go to work. She'd come home. She'd take care of her son, Sean. She had a problem though. Just a few weeks, maybe a short few months before her death, she was being stalked by a caller that kept calling her and saying some pretty bizarre and creepy things to her. One day he told her, according to a couple of sources, one day he told her to go outside and he had a little gift for her. She went out and found a single dead rose on her windshield. Creepy? Yeah, that was only the beginning. At times he expressed his deep love for her. He never identified himself. Dorothy told her family that she thought she recognized the voice, but she didn't know, and if she did, she wasn't sure of his name. Other times this guy would tell her how much he loved her, and then he'd tell her how much he wanted to kill her. He told her one time that he was going to get her alone and cut her up into bits, and no one would find her. It was awful because that's very similar to the way she died. She vanished May 28th, 1980, while in Anaheim. She had gone to a staff meeting, so she was late in getting home, and she took a work colleague to the emergency room in Anaheim. And one other staff member was with them because he had had a spider bite. So she, out of the goodness of her heart, drove this guy to UC Irvine Medical Center, and he got treated. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and she said, you know, I'll go out back and get the car. You two people wait here. They waited and waited. They waited, as I recall, over 20 minutes. And they were wondering, where is she? It doesn't take that long to get the car. Then about 11 p.m., her car, a little Toyota station wagon, appeared, and they waved to her, but with the headlights on, whoever was driving sped by them real fast and took a right turn and disappeared into the street. Now, they didn't know what to think of that. They were thinking, okay, maybe she's got an emergency at home. We better find another way to get out of here. So it didn't occur to them that something was wrong. But they, unfortunately, her body was found. When was it? No, her body wasn't found for another 4 years. What happened was on May 29th, the following day, her car was found. It was burning in an alleyway just a few miles from the hospital. No one was inside. Meanwhile, this creep that had been calling her and stalking her by phone, he from that time on, from May of 1980 onward, he kept calling the house. He kept calling her parents and just taunting them. They called the police. The police put a tracer on him. They could never trace it. Now, keep in mind, this was 1980. This was long before the era of modern cell phones. There were cell phones at the time, but very few people had them, and they were very primitive. There was no digital technology. There was no way to identify callers instantly. Back in 1980, you had to put a tracer on a call that you wanted to find out where this person was calling from. But the person had to stay on the line at least a minute for the police to get a trace. Well, he never lasted a minute. He seemed to know that, and he would hang up the phone quickly before he could be traced. So, long story short, he was never found. He was never identified. On August 6, 1984, more than 4 years later, her partial remains were found along the Santa Ana Canyon Road. It's not far from where I live. It's just a few miles. But her partial remains were found along with the remains of a dog. They were there at least 2 years, but she was basically decayed away. However, her skull, her mandible, and her teeth were still intact, and they were able to identify her by her dental records. Now get this guy kept calling. He called at least a couple of times more once the body was found. And he would say to the parents, "Hello, is Dorothy there?" And this guy was awful. And he was never caught. Never caught. Now, folks, this can happen in this life. Bad guys sometimes get away with murder and they're not caught in this life. And we think, well, they've gotten away with the crime. They really didn't. Because they'll face God. Jesus himself said, "There is nothing hidden which shall not be made known." Everything that's in the darkness will come to light. So this guy has his day before the great white throne, and he won't get away with a thing. In the meantime, I'm told this lady, Dorothy Scott, she's 32 years old when she died. She was a believer. And I want to give her this stone. Rest in peace, Dorothy. I hope to see you on the other side, and I am so sad this happened to you. Rest in peace. And to all victims of stalking, may God protect you. There were no laws against stalking back in 1980. With the death of Rebecca Schaefer in 1989 and the near death of Teresa Saldana in 1982, both were famous actresses who were stalked, but Rebecca Schaefer was killed. Anti-stalking laws were passed at that time, but in 1980, they didn't exist. I mean, you could stalk somebody all you wanted to, and the police couldn't do anything about it. We live in better times now, but we don't live in perfect times. So, rest in peace.